All right, let's review for exam 2, shall we? Impressionism, Expressionism, 12-bar blues before that as well. Synthetic scales, minimalism, aleatoric, all that fun stuff. And it's just going to be a lot of fill in the blanks and a lot of style identification for the exam. I've got it pulled up here and I'm looking right at it, but you will not see it. All I'm going to type here is what has been said in lecture. And you can follow along if you've got access to the Google Doc, which is always in the link of these YouTube videos, as well as if you've been to it once, you can come back to it by going to docs.google.com. The first thing on the exam is going to be 12-bar blues. Just fill in the basic chord progression. So what is the basic chord progression of 12-bar blues? It's 12 bars. How do we group those 12 bars? How many measures per how many phrases? 4 measures for 3 phrases each. Yes. And yes, you both got it. And then what is the basic chord progression? Or if that's too complicated, what's the most important chord for each of these phrases? 1, 4, 5, yes. Schenker would be proud. And then what happens after that? Yes, each 4-measure phrase of 12-bar blues begins with 1 and then 4 and then 5. The 1 is just 4 measures of 1 chords. No. So actually, the most basic version of 12-bar blues, every phrase begins differently, 1, 4, then 5, but they all continue the same. Yes, Chase has it. The most basic version of 12-bar blues has identical measures 2, 3, and 4 of each phrase. So we go 1, 4, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 1. Now I'm going to turn myself down a little bit and I'm going to play this on the piano. So every single one of those jazz hands, every single one of those phrases ends up going 4, 1, 1, which is also information. So let's move on then. All you have to do is put that in the exam. Now I'm going to erase this from the doc because I do not want the doc to be a cheat sheet for the exam, which is take home. You're going to have to go back into your notes that you're totally taking right now. And you're totally not just going to go back and watch this video while you take the exam. I honestly don't care. It actually requires effort, so okay. I'm just not going to type it into the Google Doc. Next, we're going to talk about modes. There are 7 modes. There. That was so worth my time. So, we've got 7 modes. I want you to name all 7 of them. And this is specifically we're talking about if we're doing modes with only white notes, using the C major scale as our grounding point. So yes, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and somehow I ended up with an extra row. Okay. So Sarah says Aeolian. There's a siren outside in case you didn't know. And Dorian. Cameron, Ionian. Locrian, yes. And then what about E, F, and G? G is Mixolydian. Phrygian is E. Lydian. Yes. Lucasian. Right, yes. Yeah, we'll just do it like this. And then Ionian is major. And we'll do this as center align. Now, what are the other 2 minor modes? Dorian and Locrian, correct. Well, sort of. Dorian starts with a minor third. Locrian sort of, it starts with a minor third, so we're going to call it a minor. Yes, Phrygian is also minor. We're talking about the thirds specifically. That's how we define whether a scale is major or minor, is the third. So what's left is Lydian and Mixolydian. They begin with major thirds. So that's Mixolydian. That's Lydian. Now there's a trick here. We're not changing anything with Aeolian. We're not changing anything with Ionian in order to achieve those scales from a major or minor scale. So what do I change with Dorian? I take a minor scale and I change what? No, not Fa. You're close. Yes, we're going to raise scale degree 6 to create a major sixth. So why don't we just put the interval in there? Yeah, we'll go ahead and center align this. And then what about Phrygian? What am I going to do to turn a natural minor scale, aka Aeolian, turn it into a Phrygian scale? We already did solfege based, so what we'll do here is we'll use interval names this time around. Yes, Ra, aka the minor second. So we're taking scale degree 2 of a minor scale and lowering it. Rip Rop. Yeah, now let's look at the major scales. We've got Lydian and Mixolydian. How am I modifying a major scale to become Lydian? And then, just for brevity's sake, give me the same thing for Mixolydian. How do I turn Ionian into Mixolydian? Raised 4, yes, an augmented fourth in Lydian. And then Mixolydian is the what? What interval are we modifying? I thought that Phi was an Inya for some reason. Yes, we're doing something to 7. What are we doing to the 7th scale degree of a major scale to create Mixolydian? We lower it, yes. So a minor 7th instead of a major 7th. And then finally, Locrian. Which mode is Locrian most similar to? And then how do we change that mode into Locrian? It's closest to Phrygian, so we're going to have a minor second. And then there's one, no. And then there's one more scale degree that we're going to mess with. And that's why it's, we call it a minor mode, at least I am, because of the minor third. But there's something awkward and odd about Locrian. Yes, the 5th. We have a diminished 5th. Oh, that's so fancy. Check it out. Yeah, I searched for degree. It's just, with this monitor, I'm above the monitor, and it's not even that great of a monitor, so I had to like scrunch down to even see what was going on down there. All right. So that is the chart that I'm now going to delete. You can use solfege if you want to, which would be what? It would be Ra, Se, La, Ra, Fi, and Te. Or we could talk about what we're doing to the scale degree. We're lowering 2 and 5. We're raising 6. We're lowering 2. We're raising 4, and we're lowering 7. I don't like that personally, because while it works if you're thinking about it in the context of a major or minor scale, it helps for you to think of all scales in a similar context. So I should be able to modify Ionian into Dorian, for example. But yeah, that's the chart that I want you to be able to recreate. You choose your method. I can't see, it's too loud in here. Do you ever turn off the radio when you're trying to find a house and you're looking for the address? I'm not taking my eyes out. Nice try. That's a 1 sub 6. Sounds like a C sharp minor triad, but is functioning as an E major triad. Same chord. Sounds like C sharp minor, is actually E major sub 6. And this is a tonicization of the dominant right here. So you guys nailed it. The thing that didn't happen is mediate tonicization. First off, are we talking about a tonicization of the mediate? Because that doesn't happen. We tonicize the dominant at the very end, where instead of cadencing on E, which is scale degree 1, we're cadencing on scale degree 5, which is B. That's a tonicization of the dominant, because we even give it its own 2-6 to 1-6-4, and then 5-7, and then 1. Yeah, there's no tonicization of 3. There's no third relationships going on. It's pretty diatonic overall. So now let's listen to the second half. We were on E, and we double neighbored on D. So we cadence by going down a step to D. Then we're going to create a D7 and lead to G and do that again. One more time. And here we're cadencing, we're finding our way back into E. We create a French 6 of scale degree 1. That is the first time in the entire piece that we have cadenced to the tonic triad. That's pretty significant. And we've got scale degree 5 at the top, which means this is what type of cadence? If we go 5-7 to 1, and then scale degree 5 is at the top of the chord. It is an authentic cadence. What type of authentic cadence? So I'm going to talk through this again, and then we're going to select our answer. We're on E minor. We're going to double neighbor D and cadence on D. D7 leads to G minor. Double neighbor on F. F7 leads to B flat minor. We're back in E major. That is what we're talking about. So we have eliminated all but the continued use of pedal bass. That never happens because the bass is moving a lot. Lots of stepwise bass parts. Bass phrases? Yeah. And then we already talked about modes. Serialism. So if I were to construct a serialist melody, I really enjoy using 3/4 for my serialist compositions. So we're going to do a short melody. Yes, note repetition is frowned upon unless it's the same note that you just stated. This is the fun part. What notes did I not use? Ooh, I like this. This has almost a Bach sort of feel to it with the chromaticism. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think I did it. We did the serial. So let's do some phrase marks. So here's our composition. No, not all staccato, and also that's not how you spell staccato. Let's do our tempo. Twitch really cares about how quickly you send messages? That's interesting. So let's do quarter equals 65. It's got this downward chromatic feel that you might actually hear in a Bach inner voice or even subject of a fugue. So I think that's kind of interesting. There's no clear tonic, and that's the important part. Oh yes, this 12-tone composition is comprised of 12 tones. So could you in the chat please type out my prime row and name the prime row? Prime row A, G sharp, E, E flat, D, F, C sharp, G, F sharp, C, B, B flat. Yes. Separate them by commas. So yes, that's the row. Ooh, that could be the lyrics. Okay, what is the name of this row? How do I name my first prime row? How do I name a prime row? Prime what? You would think so. But if you're going along the lines of naming the first row as such, then you would actually call it prime 0. But we name our rows based off of the first note. So if C is 0, then what is A? If C is 0, what is A? No, we do not. Primea. You want to give it a millennial child name or something like that? It would be prime with a Y or something. Prime 5? 6? No. Think chromatically. C is 0. C sharp is 1. D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, A flat, A. Prime 9. So this is our prime 9 row. Synthetic scales. Let's do 4/4. And I want you to help me make a C whole tone scale. What note comes after E natural if I'm making a C whole tone scale? F sharp. What's the next note then? G sharp. Yeah, you get the idea. Why did it do away with my sharp? Stop doing that. No! So that means A sharp is the next one? So is the next one B sharp? No, that's overly complicated. So I could go back. I can inharmonically spell any of this. This is still a whole tone scale. It's preferable that we're not changing the accidental type in the middle of the scale. But aside from that, you can do whatever you want. So that means if I wanted to do the B whole tone scale, and the next note would be D, but since it's not a diatonic scale, it's only a 6-note scale because there's no half steps. Adding in those 2 half steps in the diatonic scale creates an additional note. So a B whole tone scale. What is the next note in a B whole tone scale? C sharp, yes. Following that pattern would look like this. So what did I do wrong? So B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp. Did I do anything wrong? E sharp and F sharp, no bueno. Okay, let's fix that then. Is this a B whole tone scale? Does that all sound right? Yeah. Now, why ultimately did I choose sharps for both of these scales? There's a very specific reason why I chose sharps for both of these scales. It has nothing to do with the scales themselves. Does it have anything to do with some sort of hidden rule about whole tone? Because we're going up. You guys are so smart. So if we were going down, I would probably prefer flats. So, are there any whole tone scales that we haven't done? We did the C whole tone scale, and we did the B whole tone scale. Are there any other whole tone scales that exist? Every other whole tone scale, so give me another note. Give me another note, and we'll build a whole tone scale on that note. Pick a note and make a whole tone scale of it. Why wouldn't there be? F, okay. Wait, F? Isn't F over here? So if I just copy that over there, and then copy that over there, isn't that just the same scale as the B whole tone? No, I'm not going to scroll down. Isn't this just the same scale? It really is. There's only two whole tone scales. I've arbitrarily chosen C and B as my starting notes, but since it's all whole tones, there's only two possible scales. You're just changing what your starting note is. Like a big puzzle. It all fits. It's like poetry, it rhymes. The F whole tone scale is probably one of the funnier characters we've ever done. The whole half diminished scale, or the octatonic scale, is another name for it. So we're going to start on C. And I'm going to create a diatonic scale. And you're going to help me turn this into a whole half octatonic scale. I'll start you off. That's a whole step. That's a half step. That's a whole step. Yep, G flat, whole step. How do I create a half step from A flat? It's starting to look like I'm going to have one more note in this scale than I did in a diatonic scale. B double flat? Gross. I'll do it. You told me to. I'm going to do it. Because then, what's my next note? There's our half step. What's a whole step above B double flat? B? Why do we have a B double flat, but we have a B natural? Isn't there some other way we can spell that other note? Is there no other way we can spell that B double flat? No, Chase is dumb is not a note that I can put into my music. A. Boom. So what you notice here is we tried... I didn't see it. I wasn't looking. What you're noticing here is because we're adding additional half steps, we are then creating one more note in the scale. This is actually an 8-note scale, which is why it's called the octatonic scale. Because oct means 8. This is also known as the flat 9 scale in jazz. So I should be able to copy this and put it over here. And now let's mess with it again. And turn it into the half-whole diminished scale. Yes, so how many notes are we actually going to change if we turn a whole half diminished scale into a half-whole diminished scale? How many of the notes are actually going to change? My intervals are switching from whole plus half, whole plus half, whole plus half to half plus whole, half plus whole, half plus whole. How many notes am I changing? Out of the 8 notes. Would I just reverse the order? Well, I mean, yes, but I'm not gonna just invert the entire scale. But here's a question. What is a whole step plus a half step? I'm trying to alleviate the amount of work you would have to do here. A minor third. So what's a half step plus a whole step? So that would mean that every other note will not change. So let's look at it another way. Every other note let's make sure this is nice and loud, because there's sirens outside. They want me to crash into their island, but I'm not listening. That is a fully diminished 7th chord. So that means that's also a fully diminished 7th chord, because every other note is a minor third away. So right here, we want to maintain that fully diminished 7th chord, but we're changing this one down a half step. Email from Dr. Hines. While you check that email, I'm going to lower each of these every other notes from this D fully diminished 7th chord down a half step. So here is our original C fully diminished 7th chord, and here is, oops, there is the other fully diminished 7th chord, starting on D flat, when over here it was actually D, a whole step from the original tonic. So give a listen. And this is actually the sharp 9 scale. Right? No, it's really close. This is the flat 9 scale. This is not.